guys, welcome to the first segment of our Hunt the West podcast. We're putting it on here on YouTube as well. So today we're going to talk about the Wyoming elk draw specifically. Some of the things that we learn about the elk draw in Wyoming apply to other species, some don't. So Wyoming can be a little bit complicated, and their system for non-resident tag allocation is quite a bit different than their system for residents. So I'm going to focus on the non-residents. We'll talk briefly about residents, but most residents are a little bit more familiar with the draw here than the non-residents will be. So let's jump right into it. So guys, the application period for elk in Wyoming is January 3rd to the end of January. It's one of the earliest draws other than like Alaska, and so some guys will miss it looking into other states, but Wyoming has some really good opportunities to hunt elk with really liberal and long seasons that really aren't that hard to draw. I mean, a few years in and you can hunt some pretty good units. So how the draw works in Wyoming is there's essentially 4 drawings that are going to take place. So with elk, deer, and antelope, you have 2 drawing pools. One they call the regular draw, which that they allocate 60% of the tags to the regular draw, and then the other 40% go into the special drawing. And essentially what you're doing with the special drawing is paying more money. When you draw the tag, it's the same tag whether you get it through the special or regular draw, but your odds are typically a little bit better because the price is significantly higher in the special draw, and so people are going to be less likely to put in for that, and usually your odds are better. Now it's possible that people think, okay, I'm going to put in for the special draw so my odds are better, and more people do that and your odds are actually worse. It's pretty rare for that to happen, but it can. So the best thing to do is to look at the draw odds. Wyoming publishes them in a PDF format on their website. I'll put the link in the description of the video if you're on our YouTube channel. But if you go to the website, you can find those. They can be a little bit confusing at first, but they're broken down into each draw. So you've got your regular draw for your preference points, your regular draw for the random, special draw, preference points, special draw, random. So the regular draw, which has 60% of the tags, the special draw, which has 40% of the tags, and then within those 2 drawing pools, they cut it again, so it gets even more complicated. So 75% of the tags are going to be available to the top preference point holders. The other 25% go at random, and so they'll do the preference point draw first, and if you don't draw, then you're put into the random along with everybody else, regardless of how many points you have, and they'll go through that one more time. And so you always have a chance to draw, even though on some of these units that have just a handful of tags and 1,000 applicants, your odds aren't very good, but you do have a chance. So that's kind of cool. I mean, you gotta have your name in the hat to get it drawn, so at least you have that opportunity. So that's where we get kind of like 4 drawings, right? You got regular preference point draw, the regular random draw, you got your special preference point draw, and your special random draw. So that's how you're going to draw a tag. Your deadline, once again, is the end of January, and so you got to put in for those. So the other way the draw works, something to look at that's important, is the order. Okay, some states are going to look at all of your choices before they move on to the next person. And typically how a draw works is everyone will have their name. They'll go through the draw, you will be assigned a number. The lowest numbers are going to get chosen first. And in Wyoming, they look at everybody's first choice before they go into anybody's second choice. So if you have a low number, they'll look at your first choice. They won't look at your second choice until they've gone through everyone, and then they go to your second choice. So in other states like Nevada, they look through all of your choices before they move on to the next person. So you got to kind of keep that in mind. I've had people ask me, can I draw the general tag in the special drawing as a second choice? And you used to be able to, But for the last few years, you haven't, because they're all allocated before you get into the second choice. So keep that in mind. It's pretty tough to draw a sought-after tag in the second choice, including that general tag in Wyoming. The other thing that's kind of interesting about Wyoming is they do take all your money up front, and they make you pay for your preference points. So preference points for elk are going to cost you $50 each. And when you put in for the draw, you can choose whether to automatically get a preference point or not. So if you've been building points, you think you're going to draw and you don't want to continue to put in for Wyoming, you'd want to select the no preference point option. If you are going to draw, or if you aren't going to draw and you want to keep building points, or you are going to draw and you also want to keep building points for years down the road, then you'll click the preference point option. Now if you miss it or push or decide that you go with the no preference point option and you want to get a preference point later after the draw, maybe you miss the draw. Wyoming's kind of unique in that they have a time period from July 1st to the end of October where you can still purchase preference points. And so it's $50, you buy the point, it's yours. So for 2017, maximum preference points are going to be 11 points. So if you're chasing that point creep in some of the really hard to draw units, some of these red desert tags and stuff like that, you can kind of see where you are. If you get 11, if you're not in the 11 point pool, you're probably quite a few years out. But you always do have a chance to draw. So, look over the draw odds and decide what you want to do. It's tough for me to come in and say this unit's better than this unit. There's no way I can know all of them personally, but I do know the reputation of some. But you can kind of follow draw odds and know what the reputations are. So your drawing dates, or your application dates, are end of January, and your results will be out that last week of February by the 28th. So really early, and you can kind of start planning your fall for other hunts or looking for a different elk tag. Now there's other opportunities other than just that full price elk tag. There's a reduced price elk tags in Wyoming you can get as an additional tag. They cost $288. They don't have to be an additional tag though. So these are usually cow-calf only type hunts. Some of them go really late into the year, like end of January, which is a great way to fill the freezer, or you can come out for about half the price of a bull tag and hunt elk and kind of wet your feet and see if you want to come back and hunt bulls. So you can look at all those. Now, what Wyoming designates their tags by what they call a type. So if you look at a unit like this unit that I live in is Area 91. They have a Type 1 tag that's a limited quota. They have a Type 6 tag that's a reduced price cow-calf. And so that's something you really want to pay attention to. One in particular would be the Type 9, which is archery only. So yeah, get a little bit familiar with those so you know that you're putting in for the right tag. Some Type 2 licenses will have different season dates, or maybe not the whole unit will be open to that tag with a Type 2. So look at those and see what's available, and just make sure you're putting the right type in when you put in for that. So Wyoming's going to take all your money up front. You don't have to buy a license. So there's a $14 application fee that's non-refundable, but everything else is going to be refunded on your credit card. So that's, you can compare that to some of the other states. You don't have to buy a license, but you do have to put your money up front, and then you are going to be paying for each preference point. And that's applicable to elk, deer, and antelope. The other thing to be aware of is Wyoming's wilderness law. So if you're in a designated wilderness area, you have to hunt with a guide or a resident hunter that's kind of like your sponsor. It's not a fun one, but something you kind of got to watch. So let's talk a little bit about tag allocation. Wyoming gives 15% of their limited quota tags to non-residents, and then there's a statute in there where they have to give like 7,250 general bull tags to non-residents. So it's a lot. Wyoming's pretty generous with their non-resident tags. Way more than some other states that are, a lot of them cap it at 10% or less. So that's one good thing about Wyoming. There is a lot of opportunity for non-residents to hunt elk and deer and everything else too. So if you're looking for an elk hunt, that's a good one. So there's kind of two different types of hunts in Wyoming. You've got your limited quota tags, which, you know, there's a tag allocation for that unit, and then they have what they call general tags or general areas. And if you draw a general hunt, there's like 51, I think, 51 areas in the state that you can hunt on a general tag. So it gives you a lot of opportunity to hunt a lot of different places for a long time. That general tag is probably what I would recommend to people who don't have a lot of points. You know, you can draw it with 2 points in the random preference point draw and 1 in the non-resident special drawing. So they're pretty easy to draw, and sometimes you can draw a special without any points, but it's not 100%. So as I mentioned before, there is a type 9 tag that's archery only. For everything else, you purchase a $30 archery validation stamp, and it allows you to hunt the archery season. So in a lot of general hunts, general units, like these around here in the West, you're going to have a rifle opener of October 15th to the end of October. The season will go about 2 weeks, some of them a little bit longer. But if you buy your archery stamp, you can hunt from the 1st of September to the end of September, so that whole month. So you essentially add a whole nother season on. So that's a lot different than some states where you are going to have either an archery only tag or a rifle only tag, because you can hunt them both here. So that's a great way to extend your season. And I mean, you've got a month and a half in a lot of units on the general hunt to hunt bulls. So it gives you some really good opportunity, and you know, a really long season during some prime rut dates. So guys, we see a lot of questions about where to apply, which desert unit should I put in for, etc., etc. And I don't really want to touch on that because everyone has different expectations, and I honestly don't know every unit because I don't hunt all of them. So I know what the reputation is. Points are typically going to follow that, although you can find a few units that aren't as well known that can produce quality bulls. I mean, with deer and elk, my opinion is there's going to be quality animals in almost every unit. It's just a matter of finding them. And their densities are going to be a little bit lower in your general units and higher in your trophy units, because mostly age and some genetics. So, you know, one thing that we can look at is Boone and Crockett entries, and we see the most in Wyoming come from Park County. There are some general hunts in there, but it is rugged country, and you know, you need to be able to access them. There's quite a bit of wilderness, and you know, with the wilderness law in Wyoming, that's just kind of kind of goes along with the territory. But you know, great way to learn about it's call your biologist who's over those units or over certain areas of the state, and they can point you in the right direction. Game wardens and application agencies can help with that too. You know, you're gonna pay a fee. So a lot of guys always ask me, well, where do you get your points, and you know, how do you find out draw odds and all that stuff? And so what I usually do is for years I've used a website called hunterstrailhead.com. They used to be free. Now I think they charge around $25 or $30 a year. It's pretty cheap, but you get all the western states, and it's easy to look at. This year I'm trying the GoHunt.com Insider. So far it's been really good. It takes a little bit longer to find your drawing odds, but their filtering system is pretty cool. You know, you got other options like application agencies, you know, Cabela's Tags, Hunt and Fool, Epic Outdoors, other application services. There's quite a few of them around. These guys, you know, that's their whole life, is looking at these tags, talking to hunters, and helping people draw the tags of their lifetime. So, you know, take that for what you will. Those are ways to learn more about units and do some online research. So I guess the last thing we need to touch on is rounding for party applications. So if you have a different amount of points than somebody else, most states are gonna round your points. They'll average them and then round them. So like Colorado actually gives you the lowest value. So if say everyone's got 2 points except for one guy's got one, you're gonna go into the draw with 1 point. States like Utah, they're gonna average your points and then round it down. So Wyoming does not round. So they'll average your points, but they don't round them down. So if your party comes out to average like 3 1/3, 3 1/2, whatever points, just as an example, you're going to be ahead of everybody that has 3 points. So guys, Wyoming might be a little bit more complicated than some of the other states, but once you kind of learn it, it's really not that bad. So let me know if you have any questions. Feel free to leave them in our comments on our YouTube video. You can contact us on Facebook and send us a message, or Instagram at altitude_outdoors. So anyway, guys, if you're putting in for Wyoming, good luck, and good luck in all your applications this year. Make sure to subscribe to our podcast or our YouTube channel so you can catch all of our Hunt the West videos, and as we go over each state throughout the year as we kind of start to approach the different deadlines. So that's Wyoming Elk, and that's a wrap. Thanks for staying with us, and if you have any questions, guys, feel free to let us know, and good luck in the draws. Thanks, guys.